That tickle again.
Thank you, councillors and staff and public. I'm just going to read out important information about the annual general meeting. The primary purpose, before I open the meeting, the primary purpose of an annual general meeting, AGM, is to present council's annual report for the preceding financial year. Electors for Glamorgan Spring Bay Council who are in attendance at the AGM are entitled to vote in the meeting by raising their hand. The AGM does not have a formal public question time. The Chair may, however, accept questions without notice or motions without notice at the AGM at the Chair's discretion. A motion passed at the AGM is required to be considered by Council at its next ordinary meeting. This does not require Council to take the action proposed by a motion passed at the AGM, but to consider whether to take that action. Any motion moved at the AGM should therefore be pre-factored with that Council consider. As determined by Glamorgan Spring Bay Council in April 2017, all ordinary and special meetings of Council are to be audio-visually recorded and streamed live. A recording of the meeting will be available via the link on Glamorgan Spring Bay Council's website following the meeting. I now open the meeting at 5:37 p.m. All councillors are present, although there is an apology from Mayor Robert Young. I ask councillors, is there any declaration of interest or conflict within the agenda? There being nil. So we're moving on to 4.1 Annual General Meeting, 23rd of February 2021. There is a recommendation there. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Robinson.
I move that the minutes of the annual general meeting held on Tuesday the 23rd of February 2021 at 5:30 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. A seconder for that motion? Councillor Browning. Any discussion? That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Discussion of the 2020-2021 annual report. 5.1. There is a recommendation there. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Simons.
I move that the Mayor's report be accepted.
And a seconder, Councillor Arnold. Any discussion on that? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Read 5.2, the General Manager's report. There is a recommendation there. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning.
I move that the General Manager's report be accepted.
And a seconder for that motion, Councillor Simons. Any discussion on the report? No, thank you. That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. 5.3, Annual Report noting 2020-2021. There is a recommendation there. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Simons.
I move that the contents of the annual report for 2020-21 be endorsed.
Councillor Robinson. Any discussion? That being said, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 6, there is a discussion of submissions received relating to the annual report. There is a letter there from Mr. Luck. Do I need a motion to discuss? A motion to discuss. Councillor Arnold?
To discuss or to receive?
To note,
To-
receive and discuss, if wanted.
I'll move then that the submission received relating to the annual report, agenda item at agenda item 6, be received, noted and discussed.
And Councillor Breeny to second.
Thank you.
Did you give that, Ms. Murray?
Just
So Councillor
So, sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Councillor Arnold, that should probably read as, my mistake, in advice should have read as noted, received and noted,
Right.
and it's up to council whether they want to discuss the matter.
I'm happy with that.
So received and
Deputy
noted.
Mayor, I'm happy with that. I was a little bit unsure about the discussed on the end of it anyway, so if Councillor Breeny's happy to have and discussed removed, then I'm
Happy.
more
No
than happy
trouble.
with that.
So we all see the motion there now?
Thank you.
So it has been moved and seconded, and we now can discuss if we so wish to. Councillor Arnold, did you, being the mover of the motion, want to discuss?
Can I just say, Deputy Mayor, the motion now only says being received and noted, so there's no provision for discussion in it now.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, I think that's what the General Manager was telling us,
Yep,
that we
okay.
would need another motion to
So
discuss
it's been
it.
received and noted.
Yeah.
So, that being said, there be no discussion.
I think the
We can.
General Manager?
Yeah, so you need to move another motion to discuss.
Oh,
the
right. So we need to accept this motion
Yes.
first?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So, all those in favour of that motion there?
Yes.
Yes?
I do.
Now, if there is another motion to discuss, Councillor
Green.
Breeny?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council moves to discuss the submission.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion, Councillor Arnold? Councillor Breeny, would you like to start discussion?
Thank you. I've read carefully the submission by Mr. Luck relating to the annual report. Some of the points that were raised were obviously general concerns of not just Mr. Luck but other people. I feel that they have been adequately addressed in both presentations to the community, etc. A couple of things that were suggested here were to me either not misleading, but there seems to be a misunderstanding of the facts for a start. And for example, the utilisation of suggesting councils open up a link in relation to Premier Brian Green stated second reading of the bill in relation to AAR enabling legislation in 2012. If that was meant to be a justification for any of the argument in this letter, then I suggest that it depends on the point of view that you have when you read that bill as to whether you use it as justification for anything in this or renunciation of what this has said. It depends on how you look at it. It was obvious that when I looked at it as being something that verified to me that what I had done, in relation to rating, etc., had been an absolutely proper decision. The other thing that I think needs to be stated is that there is a statement that, in the opinion of the writer, councillors were provided with inaccurate advice and an impossible time frame to carry out their due diligence checks. If that is the basis for the question as to what are we going to do about the above, then all I can say is that from my councillor experience point of view, we were provided with accurate, substantial and sometimes conflicting information, yes, but certainly adequate and substantial advice from certainly qualified people, even though their qualifications were brought into question in this reading. And the mention of an impossible time frame to carry out their due diligence checks, I think, is misleading insofar as prior to the decision-making process there were months of workshops in relation to what we were doing and why we were doing it, and etc. What we did and how we did it was the decision of council, and there are arguments for and against what was done. But in the end, the decision was made, and I, as a councillor, stick to it, and I find that the questions that were raised in this submission were invalid. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold? No? You're the second. Does anyone else wish to have anything to say? Councillor Robinson?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. I as Councillor Breening has pointed out, I guess we've all read through the submission, and I guess I took exception to a couple of points, and as Councillor Breening said, we were acting on qualified advice and the information that we'd been given, and where he's gone on to say you, the councillors, used your own perception of wealth and ability to pay based on your own circumstances. I take exception to that because that's certainly not my personal case. It was the case that I acted on the information we were given and weighed it all up and made a decision on what I thought was the best way forward.
Thank you. Any other councillors need to or wish to discuss? No? Councillor Arnold?
Not necessarily discussed, Deputy Mayor, but there's one paragraph in here, it's on page 6 of the agenda. Furthermore, I request the councillors consider reinstating the ward system in GSBC. I'm not totally sure that as a council we have the capacity to do that because wards were, if you like, removed under the Local Government Act a number of years ago. So I don't think as a council we actually have that capacity to do that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No? Okay, so we have discussed, so I don't need to ask for hands. No. So move on.
Deputy Mayor, can I just ask, I'm not totally sure that the motion was actually put. The motion to discuss was put, was
I actually.
Yeah, we did. Didn't we?
Yeah, I thought we did.
Yeah.
did we do the motion to? We did the motion to.
But we have not voted on it yet.
Yeah, because I haven't written my U. I normally write unanimous if it's...
Yep. So it was put? The motion to discuss was put?
Yes.
It was?
One before, I know the one, I do know before.
One before
was, but
Yes.
I'm not sure that.
It's been received and noted, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure.
Councillors, I put the motion.
Yes, but I didn't ask. Yes, and so did Councillor Arnold seconded the motion.
Yeah.
But we didn't do the whole hand vote, did we? We did.
No, we have not voted on it yet.
No. So I will put the motion now that we have discussed to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. So there, item 7, questions on notice and motion. No written questions or notice of motion were submitted. There is no motions from the floor, can't be. Actually, yeah, there can be questions. Yes, Mr. Heck, do you have a question?
Of course, this will relate to a very recent matter. Statements were made during the discussion on the Howes Hill being sold off, where the land was sat there unused. The land has only sat there unused, to my knowledge. The land has only sat there unused, to my knowledge, because of the failure of the successive number of administrations failing to deliver policy. It actually had gone through council for the formation of Spencer Street and with the inclusion of the lookout. And as I said, that's the only reason why that land has sat there is because of the failure of the administration to actually provide what was needed for it to go forward. Everything else had been put in place and everything else was supported. It's unfortunate that when you see so much effort put in by community groups, that it's very depressing. It's understandable why there is so few new members coming up to put their hands up to support the various Rotary, Lions, education groups within this community as a result, when all this effort can be put through and then it's sold off for a peppercorn. When, I would like to ask, of the 6 people who voted for it, had you read the submissions that were put in the objections to the original concept that included the information from Kath Ferguson? Because in there, it explains it quite plainly. Dates, times, everything. I would like to ask of the councillors who did vote for it, had you read that information? Were you aware of that information before you actually voted on this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Heck. We will consider that at our next meeting. Thank you. That is all for the AGM this year. And before I close the meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank councillors, staff, public and volunteers for Glenmorgan Spring Bay for their support, dedication and work throughout this year. Wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas, safe and a prosperous 2022, all things COVID related. I'm sure we'll be back at it again next year. And yes, I dare say I speak on behalf of the Mayor, who is not here.
No longer with us.
Like me saying those words, actually. But on behalf of him, myself, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and thanks again. In saying that, I now close this meeting. This is the longest AGM meeting we've had for years. Sorry, at 5:49 p.m.
As a member of the public, I'd like to thank this council for their joint effort for what they're trying to do to get us out of the financial mess that we're in. And thank the new administration for their efforts to try and deal with such touchy matters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's it. That's a wrap for 2021.